Okay, the turret prefab's set up. Let's go ahead and start that turret script. So let's go ahead and go back to our resources folder. I'm going to close some of my stuff that's open here. I'm going to go to the created scripts folder, right click, go to create, and C# script. We're going to call that turret. Then let's go ahead. I'm not sure why Visual Studio decided to open itself there, but we're going to go ahead and drag that turret script directly onto our turret object in the hierarchy. And then, of course, go to the overrides and hit apply all so that we have that on our prefab as well. So now we can go ahead and open it up. We're going to start by adding some variables up here at the top. So let's start with a public float fire rate. Set that equal to 1f. We'll add a public float laser speed and set that equal to 20f. We'll say public game object laser prefab, and then we'll say public transform fire pause. Then we're going to add some private variables here. We're going to say transform player trans and bool firing. Once we have all of that, those variables assigned, we want to get our actual player transform. So we're going to say player trans is equal to game object.find. And what this method does is it actually searches through our hierarchy for objects based on a string we provide, which will find an object of the same name. So in this case, we want to find our player. So we say in quotation marks player there, and then we say dot transform to grab the transform from that game object. Now let's drop down into update, and we're going to say vector3 player vec equals player trans dot position minus transform dot position. And what that's going to be is the vector from our turret's transform to our player. And then we're going to say if the vector3 dot angle, so this is the angle between two vectors. If the angle between where our turret is facing, which is our transform dot forward, if the angle between where we're facing and the, oops, I hit the Windows key, I think there. If the transform, or if the angle between the transform dot forward and our player vec, which is the vector from our turret to the player, if that angle is less than or equal to 30, then we want to say if we are not firing, then we are going to start firing. So we could say start coroutine, and then in quotation marks, we're going to say fire. There we go. Now let's go ahead and step down below the update method because we are going to write that coroutine now as well. So we're going to say I enumerator fire, open and close parentheses, and then drop that there. We're going to say firing equals true. Then we want to add a yield return new, wait 4 seconds, fire rate, oops, added a close parentheses, fire rate. So that's that variable we have up at the top there. We're going to say game object dot, oops, game object, come on, there we go. Geo equals instantiate game object laser, oops, laser prefab. Game object dot transform dot position is equal to fire pause dot position. Game object dot transform dot look at is player trans dot position. There we go. We want to say game object dot get component rigid body open close parentheses dot velocity. So this is going to be the rigid body on our laser that we spawn, which is a prefab that I'm going to provide you guys with. We do need to add a script to that, but it should be mostly set up for us already. Yeah, we're going to say game object dot get component rigid body dot velocity is equal to the player trans dot position minus our fire pause dot position. Dot normalized, which I think we talked about this in a previous step, but just to remind you, this dot normalized, whenever it's put after a vector 3, sets the vector's magnitude, which is the size of the vector, equal to 1, while preserving the direction of the vector. And we're going to multiply that by laser speed. There we go. Then we add our semicolon there at the end. And with all that set up, we now have our turret script done, so we can move back over to, oops, the wrong one, move back over to our turret here in the hierarchy. And you can see there's that fire pause, so we can drag fire point in there. And then we need to find that laser prefab, which should be in our gameplay prefabs folder. There's this one that says turret laser. So with all that done, our turret is mostly set up, but we need to do some stuff to our turret laser before we try to test that. And we'll take care of that in the next step. So there is actually one thing that we messed up on our prefab here. And we can correct this now. Let's go ahead and open up, where's our turret prefab? There it is. Yeah, let's open up our turret prefab. So in our script that we just wrote, we have this, we're using our transform.forward to determine if our laser or our player is in range. But when we made our empty game object by making it a child of the turret model actually has a slight rotation on it. So what we ended up doing is this blue arrow, when we have the turret selected, represents transform.forward, and currently that's in the up direction. So we actually want to correct that rotation by changing our X rotation from -90 to 0, and then clicking on our turret model and rotating that now by -90. So that's going to set the turret back upright. That's also going to throw off our fire point, but fortunately, we just need to grab that green arrow and drag it straight up, and then it's right back into the middle of the barrel. So a little thing I caught there, but we do want to make sure we do that, because otherwise our turret is never going to actually find our player, and therefore never actually find our laser, or fire our laser. Also, let's make sure after we assign these two, we override our turret prefab by clicking on the overrides button and hitting apply all.